In the late 19th century, Africa was no longer a vast, unknown continent to Europe. It had become a prize, a continent to be carved up and claimed. And on the sun-drenched shores of what we now call Togo, a new power arrived. Germany came searching, not for friendship, but for an empire. This is the story of how a foreign ambition crept in, forever changing the destiny of a people. Before the arrival of the Germans, the coastal communities of Togo were a complex network of trade, culture, and power. For centuries, these groups had navigated the shifting tides of commerce, from the transatlantic slave trade to the palm oil boom that followed. They were masters of their own destiny, skilled negotiators who had long interacted with European traders on their own terms. But the world was changing. The Industrial Revolution in Europe had created an insatiable hunger for raw materials and new markets. One by one, European powers began to stake their claims across Africa in what would become known as the Scramble for Africa. For a long time, Germany, under its pragmatic Chancellor Otto von Bismarck, had been hesitant to join this colonial race. Bismarck famously quipped that his map of Africa was in Europe. He was more concerned with consolidating Germany's power on the continent and maintaining a delicate balance among the great powers. He saw colonies as an expensive and risky distraction. But the pressure was mounting. Nationalists, industrialists, and explorers within Germany clamored for their nation to claim its place in the sun. They argued that colonies were essential for national prestige, economic growth, and strategic advantage. By 1884, Bismarck's position had dramatically shifted. Whether it was due to domestic political pressure or a calculated move to divert French ambitions away from Europe, he finally gave the green light. The scramble was on, and Germany was a late but aggressive entrant. The man sent to secure Germany's foothold in West Africa was Gustav Nachtigall, a seasoned explorer and diplomat. His mission was clear: sign treaties with local leaders to establish German protectorates before the British or French could. When Nachtigall arrived in the small village of Togo, later known as Togoville, he found a community led by Chief Malapa III. The coastal chiefs were in a precarious position. They were caught between the powerful inland kingdoms and the ever-increasing presence of European powers. For them, a treaty with a distant European nation like Germany seemed like a potential lifeline. They hoped it would offer protection from their rivals and ensure their continued control over the lucrative coastal trade routes. It was a fragile dream of security in a rapidly changing world. In July 1884, a treaty was signed. On paper, it was a protectorate agreement. Chief Malapa and other leaders placed their lands and people under German protection. But the reality was far harsher. The complex language of the treaty, poorly translated and little understood by the local chiefs, effectively signed away their sovereignty. The hands that signed that document, perhaps trembling with a mix of hope and foreboding, sealed the fate of their people. The ink wasn't just a mark on paper. It was a symbol of a future being written for them, not by them. The immediate aftermath was a period of rapid and brutal consolidation. The German flag was raised, a stark symbol of the new order. What began as a protectorate over a tiny coastal strip quickly expanded through a series of military expeditions and coercive treaties. German administrators and soldiers pushed inland, subjugating kingdoms and peoples who had no part in the original agreement. The social and political fabric of the region, woven over centuries, was torn apart. Old alliances were broken, and new artificial divisions were created to serve the colonial administration's strategy of divide and rule. Life under German rule was harsh. The colonial economy was built on forced labor and the extraction of resources for the benefit of the metropole. Togolese people were compelled to build roads, railways, and administrative buildings, often under brutal conditions. A system of heavy taxation was imposed, payable only in German currency, which forced people into the cash crop economy or wage labor on German-owned plantations. Resistance, when it occurred, was met with overwhelming and ruthless force. The coastal communities that had once hoped for protection found themselves under the heel of a new, far more powerful master. The social bonds that had held communities together for generations were strained to the breaking point. By the 1890s, German Togoland was held up as a model colony, or Muster colony. It was efficient, well-administered, and profitable. But this efficiency was built on a foundation of exploitation and human suffering. The cost lingered in every family separated by forced labor, in every village that lost its autonomy, in every soul scarred by the violence of conquest. The dream of protection had turned into a nightmare of subjugation. The pacts signed in hope had become chains of servitude. The era of German control in Togo would last for only 3 decades, ending with the outbreak of World War I in 1914, when British and French forces invaded and captured the colony. But its legacy was profound and enduring. It left behind a territory with arbitrary borders, a distorted economy, and deep social scars. It's a story that raises chilling questions. Was this all just the result of Bismarck's political maneuvering? Or were there other hidden forces at play, driving this fateful scramble for a continent? The official histories tell one story, but the land itself and the memories of its people hold another. The full veil over this period of history has yet to be drawn back. The shores of Togo, once betrayed, still hold the untold stories and unheard heartaches of a lost world. What are your thoughts on this complex period of history? Share your reflections in the comments below. Thank you for watching.